Good morning and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is May 7th, 2024. This is episode 160. This is a podcast by a dreamer for dreamers of the world. Stand-up comedian and actor Paul Green coming to you sleeveless as I am currently working on my beach body. So I am a stand-up comedian and actor and documenting my journey as I navigate the very complicated, sometimes frustrating, ever-changing entertainment industry as a comedian and as an actor. So, yesterday was a pretty good day. So, those of you who follow the podcast know that over the weekend I had 4 or 5. Four. I don't remember. Did I perform Thursday? Anyway, I think 4 stand-up comedy shows. And I tried all brand new material in those shows as I'm starting to work on developing a new stand-up act. I have pretty much just determined that all of my old material is either officially retired or it is going to be rewritten and reformatted to fit a more authentic style of comedy. So a couple days ago, I had a talk with a good friend of mine turned executive life coach who has been meeting with me and helping me out, and it's been very fantastic. And I was talking to him about, as long as I have been doing stand-up, which is about 10 years, something always felt off about it, about my performance. And I mean that internally. I would be on stage and I would feel just something doesn't feel right about what I'm doing here. And I could never put my finger on it until recently. I finally discovered what that was. And I was talking to my friend about it, and I just said, yeah, my comedy had never felt right. I was sort of had this kind of pit in my stomach feeling when I would perform, and I just said, right probably isn't the correct word, but it's the best word that I can think of, because it wasn't a moral objection. It was just something's off. And the word that my buddy came up with was authentic. And authentic fits better. My comedy didn't feel authentic to me. And that has been the primary shift between what I have been doing historically as a stand-up comedian and what has changed literally just within the last couple of weeks. And really, this weekend was the first time I had an opportunity to perform my new material with my new authentic comedy approach. And oh my gosh, was it a just night and day difference for me internally. Little yet what the audience thought. So that was a very refreshing experience. So last night I actually watched all of those sets again. So I did 4 different sets. And obviously what I was looking for was how I could potentially tighten up the sets, because overall they went very well, but I am really now looking to get very, very specific and very methodical in ironing out the most solid, trim the fat stand-up comedy set. And truthfully, I've never really done that before. I've always been, how do I word this? I've always sort of just lived in the good enough camp of, I would write a bit, I'd try it out a couple times. If it got any response at all, I would kind of be like, all right, that works. Maybe a few tweaks. But I never held myself to a standard of really getting my stand-up comedy bits really tight, very consistent, and really getting into the details and being methodical about, okay, I said this, what was the audience response? The audience response wasn't as great or wasn't as big as they were earlier. And, that bit went a little bit too long. It's funny, when I was watching the set, I have a tendency, which this is a bad habit as well. I need to break this habit. But I'll have a tendency of commentating on my material on stage while I'm doing it. And it was funny, I was actually noting myself on stage. So when I was watching the tape, it was very clear for me to see sometimes when the bit didn't go as well as I thought, because when I was on stage, I would comment about it and go, oh, okay, yeah, I felt like that went a little too long. Or, okay, yeah, you all pulled back on that. Okay, I hear that. But on stage, well, first of all, that's me on stage actually being nervous. That's a bit of a nervous tick for me. It's me starting to feel a little insecure, which is why I need to break those habits. But interestingly enough, it also gave me some bookmarks when I was watching the tape to go, oh yeah, that bit right there went too long. I either need to cut that shorter or I need to find a different way to end it. And then I was also able, where I didn't self-note myself on stage, to go through and really listen to the audience response to every joke and go, okay, I got a really big laugh here. I didn't get as a big laugh here. I can feel the energy pulled off or pulled back, and then ask myself, well, why? And maybe, and it's all hypothesis. The reality is I don't necessarily know why they pulled back or why they didn't laugh as hard. I just know that whatever I said didn't elicit laughs for whatever reason. And so then what I've been doing is, or what I started doing last night after listening to the tape, is then really going through and looking at some of those problem areas, and then really trying to go in deep and come up with a couple of ideas of how I could potentially improve that line or that punchline or that transition or whatever it is. And truthfully, as long as I've been doing that, I hate watching my stand-up. I hate watching myself on stage. I hate watching tape. For some reason, this wasn't as difficult. There was just something different about how things went. And again, it didn't go perfect, but overall, it just felt so much better. That me going back and watching it and now going, okay, well, how can I take what went really well and make it even better and make it even tighter? And that's the world that I'm in right now, is really starting to iron out this next hour of material. And I really want it to be very solid and as funny as possible. And I want to get an hour of it. And once I do that, then my goal will be to turn around and start submitting to all of the comedy festivals and stuff. I haven't really been submitting this last year. I did a 1 hour comedy special in November and got some pretty decent footage of that. And I submitted that to 3 or 4 festivals, and not a single one of them accepted me. And if that's not just a big, obvious indication that my material needed a drastic revamp, that should have told me everything I needed to know. And it kind of did. It just took me a couple of months to get over that and wrap my head around the fact that, yeah, actually, I think I'm still just off here. And again, the material was going well. It was going pretty good. But as I said before, I've had a tendency to sort of live in the good enough. It's okay. Get some laughs, kind of funny. Some things get kind of bigger laughs. But again, just always feeling that something was not quite in alignment or authentic in my comedy. And since I've made this change, I'm already so excited to see what happens and where it takes me and what I can accomplish. So my next goal is going to be to get a really solid tape put together of most festivals want about 7 minutes. So I'll just get a really solid tape of me doing, 7 minutes of this routine, and then start submitting again and just seeing if maybe I get a better response from comedy festivals with this new approach and see how that goes. So that is the quick update. This week is going to be a fun week. Unfortunately, I found out today that one of my gigs got canceled. My Saturday afternoon gig at Mic Drop Mania in Chandler got canceled, which I feel so bad for the producer of it. He's a really funny, big personality guy, and he has a gargantuan social media following. His name is Josh Nassar, and he started doing this social media these social media videos about 2 years ago, and they just took off like wildfire, and he's done an incredible job building his social media brand. And a couple of months ago, he decided to start looking at how he could monetize, or not monetize, he's already monetized, but take his online audience and convert it into ticket sales. And I've actually been helping him with some back-end stuff, some website and lead capture. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. And so he reached out to the Mic Drop in Chandler and got on their schedule to self-produce his own show. I was going to be on it, but unfortunately, a week out, the ticket sales were just nowhere what they needed to be. So they had to cancel the show. And when he texted me, he was, to let me know that he had to cancel. He told me how many tickets he sold, which, by the way, was not zero. He did sell a handful of tickets. And what I told him was, Josh, I know... I already told you his name. So, Josh, I know this seems discouraging, but you sold... He lives in L.A. You sold more tickets in my own backyard, where I was pretty much raised, than I could sell in my own backyard. So to me, even though it wasn't enough ticket sales to actually go forward with doing the show to where I would make money, I mean, he sold a handful of tickets, and I just wanted him to know, hey, that's actually a win, that it wasn't zero. You were able to start the process of converting your online audience into people who will buy tickets. And so I'd really only been working with him on that for a couple of months to start getting his online audience to sign up and, give him their name and email addresses and phone numbers and stuff, so he could text them ticket links and market to them when he's doing shows. And so, oh man, I think that's just so important. It is just so easy, especially when there's a very specific goal, something that we want to accomplish. We set out to do it. How often does everything just go right and everything pans out and you get every goal that you set and everything that you want to happen just happens the way that you want it to happen? I know in my life, it's rarely the case that things happen that way. And what I'm learning more and more is to really look for the wins, even when things don't go as planned, which is often. And what was learned and what was encouraging about what happened, because it's not like it's everything is all bad and everything is sky is falling. I think a lot of times maybe the big goal or the specific goal or reach didn't actually get accomplished, but there were a lot of other cool things or little evidences that, we're moving in the right direction. And that's just what I thought of with my buddy. I just said, hey man, you didn't sell 50 tickets. I think you needed a minimum of 50, but you sold X amount of tickets, which is actually still a lot. 90% of comedians, I'm going to guess, couldn't sell 10 tickets to any venue ever anywhere, if they tried. In my own hometown here in Phoenix, I would have to market the crap out of my friends and family to get 10 of them to show up to see me do stand-up, because I've been doing comedy here for 20 years. Anybody who knows that I do stand-up or did improv has come out to see me perform a lot of times. And so it's just not practical for me to try to get everybody who I already know to try to come to every single show. Now, if there was a situation to where, I was maybe, headlining or whatever, then, that might be a situation to where I would reach out to a couple of people. But even then, I couldn't get strangers to come. And that really is the difference between comedians who can really be successful in terms of, touring and all that, is if they're a draw, if strangers will buy tickets to see them perform in different locations around the country. And that ultimately is my end goal. And I think that is the end goal for a lot of comics. Maybe not all of them. I think some would be totally fine staying a little bit more or less in the public limelight, which is totally understandable, and would just prefer to take paid gigs. And there's plenty of paid gigs out there. But the capacity to actually sell tickets is a pretty unique capacity. And that is ultimately what I'm seeking for. And what I am now excited about is to actually have a stand-up comedy routine that I feel so good about that I actually would feel comfortable starting to put myself out there a lot more. Because there was part of me that, because that material didn't feel authentic to me, I didn't actually really feel too good about sending it everywhere. I still did, which is interesting, but there was just a little bit of, well, maybe I'll just throw this out there and see if somebody likes it. And some people did, but it just wasn't like, yeah, I'm missing something here. I'm not knocking these all out of the ballpark. And that has been a huge adjustment. So I'm excited to do that. And anyway, to wrap up the whole story with my buddy and selling tickets and understanding that it's incredibly difficult to sell tickets to a show, incredibly difficult. Everybody that I know in the stand-up comedy world, on every level, on all different positions within that industry, whether it's bookers or agents or club owners or comedians, every single one of them is trying to sell tickets and talks about how freaking hard it is to build an audience and to get people out of their seats, to get people away from every streaming service ever being bolted into their wall where they can click a button and watch any movie, any television show ever, or on their phones, to go, I'm going to put that down and I'm going to spend my money and I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive somewhere to see a show. It is no easy task. And that's why, as I told my buddy, hey, the fact that you sold X amount of tickets at all is a huge win. Because again, it wasn't zero. And I think that's important as well, is have the big goals, but I know for me, really trying to not get so discouraged when the thing doesn't turn out the way that I had hoped, or when what I had set out to accomplish or whatever goal it was that I'm going for doesn't end up coming to fruition. And, I always had a tendency to get a little discouraged and a little down on myself. And now I'm just going, yeah, but how many wins were there in that loss? How many positive experiences can I point to that were part of that loss? And what skill set have I gained, and how have I grown, and how can I take this experience into the next one? And maybe next time I set out to get the goal, because of what I learned from the first attempt, what I was trying to do will just help me improve. And so anyway, I think that's enough philosophical pseudo self-help ramblings for one day. So everybody, that is the update for today, May 7th, 2024, episode 160 of the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. I hope you're all doing well. You're following those dreams. You're giving self some credit for the little wins as they come. All right, everybody, I love you all so much, and I will check in with you tomorrow.